Here we go. Let's do this.
We've got one life, one shot. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Addicted to Betterment, a podcast to inspire us to keep going, to try something new, to dream, to think big, bigger, to overcome. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Okay, so what is that thing for you that you do it and you're like, why don't I do this all the time? Why don't I do this more? Well, today's episode is around my topic, one of these for me, which is reflection, the power of reflection. I feel like that's cliche, the power of reflection. Well, how about the habit of reflection, making reflection regular? That's what we're going to talk about today. And David is with me. We just came off of holiday break as we're recording this. And as we reflect on the time that we took to do planning this year, which wasn't nearly as extensive because we were traveling much of our holiday break, the magnitude of the time spent in reflection really spoke to us so much that it was at the top of our list for our next podcast episode. So hopefully we can share some great things with you today and encourage you to adopt reflection more, share your reflection practices or how it's helped you with us, and maybe even think of that thing that you know you should do more of because it's so healthy for you, but you just don't. What's that thing for you? Do more of that. So we kicked off our annual planning this year with a dedicated time where both of us took our new journals and went off into our own comfy places and sat and just brain dumped reflection, just what we've accomplished, what we're proud of, the lessons learned, the amazing experiences. And I will tell you, when we came back, both of us walked into our living room with like the biggest smile on our face. And we're like, dang, this year was much more powerful than what we thought. And so there's the lesson, taking a break to spend time in reflection because it's so powerful. So I just had a huge aha in that. And we're going to talk to you today around some of the why reflect and some of the how to reflect. And we'd love to hear some of yours. But before we go any further, David, what was the experience like for you? Did you have like an aha? Or I know this was at the top of your list to record on this topic. Why?
Well, first of all, I'm super excited to be recording with you today. So that's exciting. Kicking off the year recording together. You know, it's cool how you just described the aha moment, because what triggered that, hey, let's go back and spend some time reflecting. I had made a comment as we were sitting and starting, and I said something, I'm not getting it exactly right, but I said something like, dang, this year kicked my butt. And it had a lot of hard moments and I don't know, something about, I mentioned the hard things in the year and certainly yeah, we're human. And if you're listening to this, I'm sure you had hard moments as well, but that's what I had just made that comment as we were doing our planning. And you said, but it had lots of great things too. And it's like, yeah, it did for sure. But in my mind at that moment, I was kind of thinking about the biggest challenges that I had faced ever in my life. And so to your suggestion, we went and man, once I, for myself, just started going through my calendar. So I just started going through my calendar, and then it started bringing back to mind all these different scenarios, experiences, moments, trips, powerful moments. I mean, actually during that reflection, I was reminded of some of the most powerful moments of our lives, some of the most meaningful moments that we had experienced together. So, I think for me, in a moment where I was thinking of the biggest challenges I'd ever faced, what I came from that time of reflection was, clarity of purpose and values. I was reminded of some of the things that we had experienced and reminded me of, man, these are some of the core values that we have in our relationship. And we got to experience those and enhance those, and then experienced a lot of self-awareness, because when you look back at the year, you remember some things that you handled really well, and then you remember some things maybe you didn't handle well, and moments that you grew and all the things. So, and then when I dwelt on the things that went really well and experienced, I got to think of, as I'm planning the next year, how to plan some better decision making. And I think the most powerful thing, though, is when you ask the question is, as you go back and reflect, there's something in that that I would say accelerates emotional healing and growth as you reflect back on, on a season, or for us, the year. Because, for me, as I said, man, this was a challenging year. And it was. But there's something about the power of going back and just reflecting, and, you think of the moments that were really challenging, and here we are at the end of the year. We made it and thrived. And so there's something really powerful and healing in that as well.
Totally. I felt that. I mean, but let's be real. We ordered a banner for our condo that on our vacation over the holidays prior to doing the reflection that said goodbye 2024. So if you think for a minute, about the lesson here, there's lots of them, but one that's rising to the top for me is how we sometimes let the crap cloud us to the place where, 2 weeks ago something happened and man, this year, goodbye 2024, and you're just kinda not that there weren't many themes of things that were challenging throughout the year, but dang, when you sit down intentionally and look for the good, there's so much there, and that really applies to everywhere in life. So, I just wanna start for a second by reminding us that shower moments, I say this many times because of the power of the pause, and, you've got something you're working on, and half the time the answer comes to you, it's within you while you're sleeping or while you're in the shower because you're quiet. You're not clouded. You don't have all of this stuff going on. And reflection, that's a time of pause. And there's so much power in that. And I think to look at not just what were these great celebratory things and what did I check off the bucket list, way more than what we thought, right? But also the amazing lessons and what is life. It's just this journey of learning and moving forward. We're going to take what works and bring it with us, or we're going to learn the lesson and hopefully shift. And so there's just so much to reflection being a regular healthy practice. And David, like you said, just like healthy for our souls. So let's just talk for a couple more minutes on really summarizing why reflect and kind of cover all the ground there. And then let's go into ideas on how to reflect, some of the things we did, some other ideas we have to give some people some, I don't know, tangible tips to take and go try a new way of reflecting and make it a regular thing. So, summarizing why reflect. So, we said like it centers us, it raises our vibration. Half the time, gratitude comes with that because we see so many good things. Why reflect, David?
I'm going to say for me, the most profound thing is, you're always trying to climb the hill in front of you, or, overcome the obstacle in front of you. And the best way to be confident, to be grateful, is to think about all the things you've already overcome, or the obstacles that was in your way. And in that moment, you think, oh my gosh. And then you look back at, wow, look how far I've come in that moment. And then one of the big reasons why is to facilitate learning. It's a great opportunity to learn, how to get better in life, how to, even level up more on some things that you've already done. And then, for me, it strengthens relationships. Here's what I will say for me, in that moment of reflection that we did is, suddenly after I sat and reflected over the year and thought of all the things we had experienced, all the things we had overcome, the things we worked through, the hills we climbed, all the things. Suddenly, when we went back and started, planning, man, I felt a much deeper, much more stronger bond with you as we started to plan, because I'm like, dang, my partner and I, we can overcome anything. We can accomplish anything. Look at what all we did this year. So for me, it's the strengthening the bond and gaining confidence and resilience in the things you're facing ahead.
Couple of the things that come to mind about the why. Have you ever used the term or statement, hindsight is 2020? So not just when there's like a big mistake and you're like, wow, if I would have seen that coming, but it really applies everywhere. When you look backwards to put the pieces together, you start to look for themes and you notice it's like data tells a story, right? Data is a very powerful tool. Similar here, you look back and you see the common threads and you're like, okay, those 6 steps, I'm starting to notice that I can get them down to 5 because I'm seeing something that can be cut out. And if we don't take the time to look at that, we're just going to take more time or be inefficient because we're still doing that extra step because we're not taking time to realize that the extra step doesn't need to be there. So hindsight is 2020. And then, I think of momentum. And what is momentum? Momentum is this stacking of traction, this stacking of wins. You think of Atomic Habits, one of our favorite books, and habit stacking. You had success with one habit and then you put the other one on it, and that's where momentum comes in. So just, I think so many things also in our world of it literally can't move any faster with the way that, technology, AI, just all of these things coming at us. And it's just a straight up healthy practice to just stop. And let's start to go into how to reflect. I think it starts with this intentionality of blocked time. Like you are blocking time. And one of the biggest ahas for us that we're sharing and wanting to encourage you is not just once a year, not just once a quarter. Could it be a daily practice for 3 minutes? How could that build the momentum that you have and look for opportunities to, find gaps because we're doing it so regularly. I think blocking time and then focusing your reflection efforts on an intentional thing. What am I doing in my reflection? What am I looking for? Common opportunities to find the way that we level up. What is it that we can cut out? How do we get more efficient? Where have we had success? And I'm looking for that intentionally in my reflection because I want to replicate that success. So, David, what else comes to mind in this initial kickoff of how to reflect?
Well, I think those tips you just gave are really awesome. The thing I would probably add to that is the frequency and cadence with which you reflect. We did it at the end of the year, but if you think, use a sports analogy, every basketball team or baseball team, hitters will look back at their at bats each game, or a football team will review the game. At the end of each game, they'll go over the plays, what went well, what didn't go well, what blocks did they miss, what passes did they miss. So by doing it regularly, I think it helps you to stay more closer to the problem or closer to the solution. It's a lot easier to fix after a week or a month, versus maybe something that's you've detected a habit or something that you picked up over a whole year, and now you're reflecting, going, oh man, this is a lot harder change. Or, maybe it's a fitness regimen or whatever it is. So I think cadence and frequency is a really good step to do that well. I love blocking time, because if you don't block the time, and then I would say being honest with yourself in that reflection. Some people have a tendency to look for the great things. Oh man, these are all the things that went great. Or some people are the opposite and have a tendency to just look at the negative, or if they're looking, at their partner, just see all the things that didn't go well. But if you actually look at it objectively with thought-provoking questions that are objective, so you can kind of get an honest reflection and score, so to speak, of how things did go or didn't go. And I think by doing those, it really helps facilitate the growth and the healing that can happen in those when you do it, honestly and frequently.
And before we go any further, it just hit me the power of reflecting with others for certain initiatives, like with your spouse, doing it together, obviously doing reflection individually, very powerful thing, but starting to think about how the dynamics change to impact the growth of different areas of our life wheel. Like when we're with our spouse and we're doing a reflection exercise, the power of just building each other together versus your team at work. And when you take time for reflection, all of the things that we talked about, like the gratitude and acknowledging the success and feeling accomplished, learning, together. What does that do for a team in driving that closeness, that cohesiveness, that connection? Going back to the life wheel that we talk about a lot here on the show, your financial advisor. Are you taking time to spend time? And what did we talk about in our last meeting? What have we done since then? Celebrating those things before you go forward. Or one more example, your health accountability buddy. Maybe it's somebody you go to the gym with. Wow, have you noticed? I mean, we're rocking out the treadmill much more than we used to, but those gradual incremental changes sometimes aren't noticed when we don't spend time to really look at Back in March, we were trying to do a 7.2-minute mile. I don't even know why I'm talking about running because I can't stand running anymore. But first thing that came to mind with the gym, but you think about the weight that you picked up and it's like, gosh, I remember when this was really hard, this 12-pound weight. That was just 3 months ago. And you're with this person that you've spent time in accountability with for your health, and you get to do that together. So, I think blocking that time for yourself as a regular initiative, but also in your different buckets of your life wheel, like who are those people that you could elevate together during this very healthy practice of reflection?
I love everything you just said. And the one thing that came to mind as you were talking, whether it's reflecting individually for yourself or with your spouse or as a team, in your business, if you do it with love and compassion. So, if you love yourself and don't judge yourself, don't do it through a lens of judgment of, oh man, I really sucked here. I should have, yeah, the reality is it is what it is. But if you're a great leader and you're coaching, someone on your team, you're going to tell them the things they did well and give them constructive criticism and positive reinforcement on the things they can do better. Or if you're a parent and you do it with your kid, you're going to do the same. You're not just going to rip your kid apart for all the things that they did wrong over the year. And why would you do that to yourself? If you're looking back and reflecting and seeing all the mistakes that you made or things that you should have done better, do it with love and compassion. Well, and hey, maybe I messed up here, but I'm going to get better, in these other ways. So I think it's so important that we have love and compassion for each other, of course, but sometimes it's harder to do that for yourself. And so that's just one of the key things that comes to my mind.
Yeah, that's really good. And I was just starting to think of, more of these like tactical efforts of how to reflect and kind of shake it up. I mean, you might find a system that works for you and you're like, here are the 3 things I do and I love it. Great. But if you're like me, I have to shake things up a lot because I get somewhat bored with the routine. And so there's some things that I keep and I take and I do regularly, and others I just need to add in. And so one that David and I did that we mentioned was going back and looking at your calendar. If you're like us, everything is calendared, particularly when it comes to, the work side of life and the Monday through Fridays, if you will. It's just you see everything on there and it just becomes a great tool to use in your reflection. Having a list of reflective notes that you call whatever this list is on your phone or recording voice notes and making that a habit. Like when it pops up in your head, you're like, oh, I'm going to jot that down now because I know during my next reflection time that I have blocked because I'm proactive in this, I want to be able to remember that. And so starting to make it a habit of jotting it down on a list so that you can go deeper when you've got that time blocked. Not to say that you can't be in reflection at any point. You could say, I'm going to take a couple minutes to reflect. Great. Good for you. But something that gives you this habitual system to jot it down or record a voice note so that it's there and it's fresh later. And David and I talk a lot about, the power of meditation. And if that is the intention of the meditation time, is maybe reflection is progress. What is the progress that I've made in my health habits over the past month? I'm going to meditate on that, right? And many times people will say, I don't even know how people meditate without like a guided meditation. It's hard. I think. But if I have something as the outline for the time very intentionally, that helps so much. And so you could think, even if it's 5 minutes, meditations don't have to be 20, 30, 40 minutes. They could be 5 minutes. And then it's things like progress in my health. What have I learned this week? What am I grateful for? Gratitude practice is really reflection, right? It's the things that are in our life. And so I'm going to think of 20 things that I'm grateful for. That was the meditation David and I did this morning was, they just had us continue to list out and we did like a total of 20 things that we are grateful for. And then just that vibration, the feeling going into the day, you're just, that just penetrates. And I've had a pretty freaking great day. So high five to the meditation time that we had this morning. What are other tactical things that come to mind, David, that maybe others would want to take and try?
I feel a little bit hypocritical suggesting this one, but it's the most proactive reflection tool that I know to use. And when I've done it in the past, it was extremely powerful, but journaling. I used to journal at one point in my time and man, I found that to be such a powerful thing. and I get away from it. And now as I make this suggestion, like I said, I feel somewhat hypocritical because I'm not doing it at all. But man, journaling and then being able to go back and just reflect, it's such a proactive but really succinct way to reflect in a real time way. So that's probably the most proactive tactical tip I would have.
Yeah. And if there's anyone listening that could contribute to this podcast as I don't know, excellence in journaling, we'd love to have you, because I have that same thing where I have my journal, and I use my journal for a variety of things, but they're very, I don't know, not journaly. It's like, here's my topic of the day, and it's not like a regular journaling practice. Not that anything's like right or wrong. It is what we make it, but the whole point of making journaling a daily practice where reflection is part of that. If anyone has that system, it's rocking for you. We'd love to have you on as a guest because I'd like to learn from you. It sounds like David would too. We'd love to pick up some tips. So, I think as we move towards wrapping this up and just looking at, reflection as a process, it's block time for reflection. Now, if you get to a place that it's just a habit, it just rolls and it's just part of who you are, I mean, I think that's the best way to be. But blocking time, building those habits, that intentional pause with intention. And it's like, what is this reflection here for? There's so many things you could reflect on. And just thinking about looking back to piece together the learnings, repeat what works, make shifts on the things that you're seeing in your reflection that could change and drive efficiency and make you better, make you feel good, and just let the gratitude take over.
Nikki, you're probably the best in the world at this, but I think the most powerful way to utilize reflection is to let the reflection determine the action that you're going to take. Use it to take action. And again, you are better at taking action than maybe anyone I've ever met. But, reflection is such a powerful healing and centering thing because it really puts things in perspective a lot of times that sometimes can get shifted in the moment. Perspective can be lost. And so reflection is so great for perspective and centering and emotional healing and all that. But if you can use it to take action, how are you going to take what you learned, what you did, what you experienced to take action to level up in your life? And so I think that's the most powerful way to use reflection in life.
Yeah, so good. Well, David, as we were talking here, and I was just spending blocked time to talk about this topic, I thought, how powerful would it be if after we do our reflection, looking back at our calendar, jotting down the lessons learned and the accomplishments and what we're proud of, to do it for each other, with your spouse, your significant other, with someone you work really closely with, the things that they may see in reflection about you, about me, probably pretty darn powerful. And I'm sure that there's some things that I missed, but those closest to us, they're the best to give us feedback and give us insights that help us grow. So we haven't really done that, I don't think. I mean, we've given like feedback to each other, but making it part of a reflection practice where, hey, let me list out all these things, but what did I miss? Or what do you see? Could be something to try. I think we'll put it on our list. So we encourage everyone to make reflection regular. Make it a more often practice. Send us your ideas. If you're a journaler, we'd love to have you as a guest. We want to learn more about how to do that regularly. And we're looking forward to another year together. Just continuing to share what's working for us and where we're stuck and what we need help with, and continuing to learn from you.
Nikki, I remember when we climbed Camelback Mountain, the experiences we had climbing up the mountain. And then you get to the top, and that's the same as reflection. Now you're at the top, you have the view, and you look back down. And man, our hope for all of our friends in Addicted Betterment is that at some moments this year, you get to experience that top of the mountain and pause and reflect and look at the climb, because it makes that view so much sweeter. So you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.